Because here on BBC News, you will be able to watch rolling coverage of the ABC News presidential debate, simulcast between Democrat and Republican candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. The news coverage will start from 8 p.m. East Coast time on Tuesday. That's 1 a.m. if you're in the UK. And the actual debate will begin an hour later.
Times and Siena poll, where for the first time in weeks, Trump is leading Harris nationally. While Harris has managed to turn around the polls since incumbent Joe Biden's exit, the numbers are still neck and neck. The polling was done between September 3rd to the 6th. Elections in the U.S. aren't decided on the national tally. They are calculated state by state, which ends up making a handful of states, well, the kingmakers. They are often referred to as swing states, and while they change each election cycle, this time there are 7 of them. So let's look at CBS News and YouGov poll that looks at the swing states. The poll suggested that Harris was narrowly ahead in Wisconsin and Michigan and tied in 5 other swing states: Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, as well as Pennsylvania. Keeping the margin of error in mind, these polls are a confirmation that each candidate retains a remarkably stable base of loyalists, almost evenly split across the country. It is important to note that Donald Trump continues to defy all odds despite his historic status as, quote, being a convicted criminal. The latest polling confirms that the Republicans are resting their loyalties with him, and he might even be able to convert some independents. When it comes to the issues on the ballot, Trump is doing exceedingly well. He takes the prize in economy and inflation, while Harris is leading in housing and cognitive skills. The polling was done between September 3rd and 6th. The election is already chaotic, with 81-year-old Biden dropping out amid concerns over his age and cognitive abilities, Donald Trump narrowly surviving an assassination attempt, and growing fears that Donald Trump again might refuse to concede if he loses in November. These numbers indicate that Tuesday's presidential debate could be a crucial moment in the upcoming U.S. presidential election in November. And of course, we will be covering all of that here on WION with pre and post debate coverage. So don't forget to stay tuned.
Unburdened by what has been.
Democrat candidate has been in Pennsylvania at the weekend as she prepares for the crucial clash.
Are you ready, Madam Vice President?
Ready.
It is a high-stakes event with Kamala effectively tied in the polls against the Republican candidate Donald Trump. A recent poll had Trump up by 1 percentage point, meaning a win for either candidate is within reach.
Something different.
The race has officially entered a critical stretch, with Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump set to face off at the first presidential debate in less than a week. In short, voting will officially begin this week in America. The first ballots go out in North Carolina, a critical Sunbelt swing state. Then in about 2 weeks, in-person voting will begin in 3 states: Minnesota, South Dakota, and Virginia. To put it simply, only these states are likely to decide the next president of the United States.
Whoever I vote for, I want them to respect me.
Us little people are the people. You shove us out, and what have you got?
Once we've seen our bodily autonomy go, what comes next?
America can
named 7 swing states in the 2024 election race, which hold the key to the White House: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. In American elections, it doesn't matter if you have the most votes overall. It all depends on electoral votes. When Americans go to polls, they won't technically be voting for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. They will be voting for members of the Electoral College. Each of the 50 states has a certain number of electoral members based on the state's population. This year, there are 538 electors. The winner needs 270 electoral votes for a simple majority. Now, in most states, the candidate who wins the popular vote gets the support of all the electors. This means the winner gets all the electoral votes, even if the margin is very close. It also means that a president may win the popular vote but still lose the presidency. 5 American presidents were declared winners despite losing the popular vote. This is the current allocation of electoral votes for 2024 and 2028. And this is the Electoral College of the swing states. Most of these states have historically been unpredictable, swinging from one party to another, red, blue. The presidential candidates will be focusing on these states instead of their nationwide campaign. Let's take the first one, Arizona, the Grand Canyon state, which borders Mexico for hundreds of miles. Arizona will be a focal point for this year's election, especially with the fiery immigration debate. In 2020, Arizona narrowly pushed Joe Biden to victory. Georgia. Trump faces one of his 4 criminal cases in this state, and a third of Georgia's population is African American, one of the country's largest proportions of black residents. It is also believed that this demographic was instrumental in Biden winning in 2020. Michigan. Now, this Great Lakes state has picked the winning presidential candidate in the last 2 elections. Despite backing Biden in 2020, it is symbolic of a nationwide protest against America's support for Israel in its war on Gaza. Nevada. The Silver State has the highest unemployment rate at 5.1% and shows signs of flipping red despite voting blue for the last several elections. North Carolina is by far the key state to win for both Harris and Trump. Although Trump carried North Carolina in 2020, Kamala Harris's entry has tightened the race to a toss-up. Pennsylvania, the Keystone State where Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt. It was pivotal in 2020 for Biden, but this year the state is struggling with rising prices and food insecurity. Lastly, Wisconsin, a key decider in both 2016 and 2020. It had sizable support for Kennedy Jr., and Trump has described the state as really important. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris formally accepted her nomination in this city. So get ready for an intense showdown in the 2024 US presidential election. And of course, keep a close eye on these 7 states, the deciders, when America decides.